So in part one, we managed to get the system back up and running pretty close to its original spec. We've got the sound card, the network card, onboard video, all reassembled. And in part two, what we're going to do is install Windows 95. On top of that, we're going to install Microsoft Plus for Windows 95. And we're going to install some productivity software and then try out a few little things just to see if it's all working. Cool. Now, we still need to boot off a Windows 95 boot disk because Windows 95 CDs are not in themselves bootable. We don't know if this optical drive works either. I'm going to put the disk in the drive. We're not going to recognize it from DOS at this point, but I just want to hear it spin up. It's pretty quiet, so I think it's a functional drive. Let me go and get a Windows 95 boot disk. Can't find my original, so I've made another one. We'll boot off this and see if that optical drive is recognized and see if we can install Windows 95. Alright, so we're booted into DOS. It hasn't automatically run the setup. And it hasn't told me I've got a D drive. So that's not a Windows 95 boot disk at all. It's a boot disk created from Windows 95 with some utilities on it, but it hasn't got the CD-ROM drivers. So that's a little bit of a pain. So this is the Dell OEM version of the Windows 95 boot disk, and it doesn't use the generic Oak CD-ROM drive, which is interesting. So it asks for a specific one. That's a DVD drive. So that's interesting. So maybe this gives you more flexibility. So it's a Mitsumi drive. So I don't know which of these is going to be the best option. Nope. So hasn't worked with Toshiba. I thought I was being clever by using the Dell OEM version of the boot disk, but apparently not. The drive you took out was a Toshiba drive though, wasn't it? So that would kind of make sense. Let's try the neck drive. So that's using the Oak driver, so that shouldn't be a problem. Should recognize that drive. So assuming the optical drive is working, we should get it spin up in a second. I can hear it spinning up. So okay, so we've got a generic driver working. Let's start the Windows 95 setup. So normally I'd just copy the installation files over, but let's do it the way it was meant to be done. So I've got a good chance the 3COM driver is on the optical drive. There's about a 50-50 chance the audio card driver is on the optical drive. So plug and play seems to be working correctly. We managed to get all the way through this process. He says at 96%, it's probably being a bit optimistic. So I can hear it chugging away, although it's stuck at 96%, it's still working of a kind. There you go, 97%. Yay, success. So plug and play does work. Do I want to install any of those things? No. So what are we going to do? I'm just going to go for everything. So we need to add TCP/IP if we want to get that network card working on any kind of modern network. Now, everything else kind of makes sense. So hopefully it's already detected the adapter. So it's recognised it's an S3 video. It's recognised the keyboard. It's in America, which is not unreasonable, but it is incorrect. It hasn't detected the monitor through the normal normal DCC, I think it is, isn't it? So we're going to manually select it just so that we can change the resolution to something usable. It's recognised that it's got APM. I'm going to change that to British. Interface, Windows 95. Do you know, I've never noticed that before. That's interesting. Yes, I do want to create a startup disk. So the optical drive is working really well. It's not especially quiet or noisy, but it seems to be reliable. It's just a shame it's the wrong colour. So we're rebooting after the install. It should boot straight through into the rest of the Windows 95 setup. Our disk activity light's flashing away, so nothing's appearing on screen, but it is working. Let's just leave that blank for now. So we'll think about network connectivity at a future point. So this used to happen sometimes, so now it can't find its own optical drive, and that's because it hasn't installed the driver yet. Okay, system board resource conflict, so that's reappeared. So is that because our Windows 95 has now reprogrammed the audio card? Because we haven't changed any of this, this is still working. So yeah, so I think something has changed on the audio card. Okay, so we've got a welcome to Windows. So the install has been successful mostly. So let's have a look in Device Manager. So it hasn't got the correct video drivers. It's not happy about COM port 1 for some reason. Print port we've disabled, so we know that. Yeah, and it couldn't find the drivers for the game port. So some things have worked really well, some things have not. So let's just have a little look in here. Resources. So it's not listing anything that's conflicting with. Neither is that. It says there's no conflicts with the game port, but it has got an exclamation mark next to it, so that doesn't quite add up. And display drive just because it hasn't found the right driver. So it's just using the standard Super VGA driver from Windows 95, which is fine, but you just won't get any acceleration. So moving windows around, it's going to be sluggish. So if we put so it wouldn't let me change any screen settings. It's now looking for a proper driver. So I'm having a little bit of a change of heart because Windows keeps crashing after I installed the drivers for the sound card. So what I'm going to do is use that AWE, the OR that I was talking about, that I was going to use in a separate build. But I think it may be more appropriate to use it in this one. It's a great card. It's going to be great for DOS. And having rethought the sound card, I'm actually going to rethink the partitioning as well. I think we should just install one Windows 95 partition on there and not worry about running DOS 622 first. We'll get DOS 7. We can always copy over any DOS utilities we need from the Windows 95 CD. So yeah, so let's do that. Let's start again from scratch, and hopefully we can get something slightly more reliable. So I sound a bit disappointed to be having the AWE in there, but I'm not at all actually. It is a great card. It is going to be much more fun, I think, than this Opti-based card would have been. I think the sound's going to be better, and I think the game support is going to be slightly better as well. Alright, so we need to boot off a floppy disk to get the Windows 95 CD working. So let's do that. Is F-disk going to be on here? Looks like it is. We do want to enable large drive support, so just to remind everybody, we've got this one MS-DOS6 FAT16 partition, which is 2 gigs of the 8 gig drive. I think we should just go for one large 8 gig partition, so we're going to delete a primary DOS 1, and we're going to do number 1, and it's called MS-DOS _6. Am I sure? Yes. Okay, there we go. So we should have nothing if we display number 4 now. Yeah, so no partitions. That's all good. Alright. So we'll reboot off the floppy. Then we'll start the Windows 95 installation from the CD-ROM. There is an AO2 version of this BIOS, but it doesn't say specifically what the AO2 option gives above the AO1, so I'm not going to install it for now, not unless we start having actual problems. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Let's try it again. So the version 7, which is what Windows 95 is, of version of DOS, was unhappy. So it's unhappy with the version of ScanDisk that's on the floppy, I think. But we can bypass. Here we go. Don't run ScanDisk, so we can bypass that. But if we've gone to all this trouble, why don't we just do what we were going to do in the first place and copy all the Windows 95 files onto the hard drive? It's going to make things much easier. So let's go down that route, particularly when we start adding in drivers later on, instead of having to put a CD in the optical drive every time, it'll just load it off the hard disk. So we're going to create one large partition, a big primary one. Do we want to use the maximum available size? Yes, we do. So we're going to, I'll do it again, we're going to use a whole 8 gigs for the Windows installation. That'll also give us plenty of room to copy over the CD-ROM files. I'm just trying to do a more pure installation, but it's all gone a bit pear-shaped. So we do it the slightly cheaty way that the OEM would have done it in the first place anyway, so I suppose it's not that much of a cheat. So if we restart now and select the NEC driver, the optical drive should be drive D. We haven't created an actual fat partition yet though, so it might not recognize it yet until we've given it a file system. So it's going to recognize the optical drive, which is the first part of the process. Then it's going to load the second part, which allocates it the drive letter. So it might be C or D, let's find out. Drive D, so it's recognised now that there's a hard drive and it's given it the drive D. I think that's going to be safer when we're copying over the files. So if we go to drive C, it's going to say what? Because we haven't formatted it yet. But if we go to drive D, we could just run the setup direct from here. Let's just run the setup then. We're going to format the 8 gig drive from the floppy disk. It wouldn't let me format it using the format that's on the Windows 95 drive for some reason. Whatever Dell have done to that OEM boot disk doesn't seem to have worked quite right. Okay, we're getting near the end of the format. It's taken a good 20 minutes or so, I think, to format this 8 gig drive. It's gone pretty well so far. There's been the occasional funny noise from the drive. I think occasionally it's come across some sectors that aren't reading and writing correctly. But what we're going to do now is create a directory on the hard drive where we can move all the Windows 95 installation files into from the optical drive, and then run the setup from the hard drive, and then that way it won't ask for setup files from the optical drive in the future. Okay, so the format's finished. Alright, so we can now move to the C drive, and it should be essentially empty. So there's no bootable medium on here yet. So that's another thing we should do. Let's just check the version. It does say Windows 95 version. So we should format. No, we should sys the C drive to give it an operating system so that it can at least boot. System transferred, so that's all good. So now we're going to go to the C drive, and there should be some files. Yep, here's command.com, and there'll be 2 hidden files that you can't see as well. So we're going to make a directory called Windows. We're going to go into that directory. We're going to do and make another directory called options. We're going to go into options, and then we're going to make a directory called cabs. And cabs is Microsoft's basically get a compressed single file that contains lots of other files, a bit like a zip file. It's basically Microsoft's own version. And then if we go to the D drive and have a look in this Windows 95 directory, we'll see there's lots of files that end in .cap. So these are the compressed archive that have all the files that you need to make up Windows, but compressed. So these would have been on individual floppies for the floppy version. That's basically why they exist. So we're going to copy all of these over to that C drive. So in drive C we're in Windows option cabs, okay, and on the D drive we're in Windows 95. So what we can do, rather than have to type out the whole paths, we can just use the drive identifiers. So we're going to copy everything to the C drive, and because we're not specifying a directory, it's going to copy it into the working directory on the C drive. So that will only take a moment. One of these files is set up, so we're going to run that. But what I'm going to do first is boot off the hard drive just to make sure it is bootable. These are all the individual files that would have taken up a whole floppy, so it would have been about 20 floppies worth of changing. The CD-ROMs obviously changed that enormously. So we're going to pop out the optical drive, we're going to pop out the floppy drive, and we're going to reboot. Just going to wait for the optical drive drawer to open. There we go. Could have left it in because Windows 95 optical drive CD-ROMs are not bootable. So what should happen, it should boot off the hard drive. Okay, and it hasn't done anything else because there's nothing else to do. Because if we look, it's only got the command.com, there's no autoexec or config.sys. But we're going to go into Windows, Options, Cabs, and from here we're going to run setup. Setup found a compressed volume or disk cache utility on your computer. It hasn't. Then run setting. So this is what happened when we tried to run it. So Dell have done something to their floppy disk, which means it isn't working quite right. So what I'm going to do is boot off a different Windows 95 boot floppy. It's going to look exactly the same. It's going to say starting Windows 95. This one doesn't have any CD-ROM drivers on it, I don't think. So what version is this? It's exactly the same version. So I'm not sure why. Let's just sys from this boot disk. Boot again and then try and get into the Windows 95 setup. So now in the C drive, back where we were. Yeah, so I'm not sure why it's unhappy about the format of the drive. It thinks there's some disk cache or a compressed volume on there, but there is not. So it's going to exit. So let's just see what options we've got. Okay, well let's try not loading a disk cache, even though there isn't one there. We're going to tell it to not check for disk size. We're going to tell it not to run scan disk because it wasn't happy about that last time. So it seems a little bit more happy. Yes, we agree to the software license. Oh. Don't really understand why that's happened. Not really sure what's going on. This is a genuine Windows 95 CD. It seems very, very unhappy for some reason. It's possible that the boot disk is very, very slightly too later version for this. So this might be the original version 1. There were several versions of Windows 95. The most recent was generally referred to as release 2.5. Added some extra features, including basic USB support. And it may be that this disk is too old for that boot disk. So what I'm going to do is go to plan B and use a version 2.5 setup disk from your favorite abandonware site. But as you can see, I do have a genuine Windows 95 install, so that's very disappointing. So there we have it, the OEM version of Windows 95 2.5, indistinguishable from the full retail version. Okay, so this is dragging on a little bit now, but let's see if we can do an install from this. Right, so that's copied that across. If we go now, and they're all here, there's 217 files. Let's have a quick look at them. So, Java, media files, mail files. There's a whole section of files called Pro. Not sure what they are. And that's, you know, the Windows 95 installation files themselves are just here. Everything else was extra. Oh well. That's finally run the setup. So the lesson here really is make sure that your boot disk and your install optical media are the same version, otherwise you're going to have lots of problems. So if you haven't got this far before, it's very, very much a pleasure to see this. I really like this DOS aesthetic. I really like that kind of pseudo-windowed DOS look. Welcome to Windows 95 setup. We're going to continue, thank you. So instead of copying things off the optical drive, it's now copying them straight off the hard disk. And it's much quicker. We are going to accept that, yes, thank you very much. Now, the only thing here is that because it's detected there's already a Windows directory, it's going to create a second Windows directory for you, and it's very cleverly named it to .000, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use the actual Windows directory we've already created. So it gives you a little warning, don't worry, that's normal. So let's see how it gets on with detecting new hardware. So is it just the monitor it's detected? What about Internet Explorer 4? So we were going to be installing Microsoft Plus for Windows 95, and we might well do that, but the internet tools that come with this, I think, are earlier than the ones that come with the 2.5 release OEM, so it may be redundant to install that, except for things like the screensavers and extra games, but we shall see. You can see how all this stuff's been grafted onto Windows 95. It's not part of the core installation. So it's installing an updated version of DirectX. I'm not sure which one it is. Front Page Express. Lovely. So unless I'm mistaken, the installation of all these extras that come associated with Internet Explorer 4 have taken as much time, if not as more time, than the base Windows 95 install. There was a real paradigm shift, wasn't there, when the internet came along in terms of personal computing. So much had to change on the desktop to give us the experience that we have today. UK setup, we're going to get a channel bar. There we go, there's the active desktop. Channel bar. Oh, look at that old BBC logo, my goodness, old Sky logo. They look terrible as well in the VGA standard driver. Pentium, we know, 32 megs of RAM. How much has been picked up in the device driver? So it hasn't picked up the network card correctly. It's recognised the sound card but not installed the drivers for it. It's recognised the USB but not installed the drivers for it. And the communications and printer ports are flagged probably because of that conflict clash that we had earlier on. Does that mean it's got the display adapter correct? No, it's standard using the standard VGA. Okay, so as it happens, I have here a disk full of drivers. Let's see what we can get working. So you can see how closely integrated Internet Explorer is. It's now even on the splash screen. So this driver has come from Vogons, and it isn't specifically described as an STB driver, but it looks like it's from the STB manufacturer. So the Verge DX chipset was used by all sorts of different manufacturers. That's not really going to help. So we don't have one of these branded cards, so I don't know if it's actually going to work, but we'll try the Windows 95 driver. No, perhaps we should have read the README. So the reason we're installing Windows 95 is because it's the most age appropriate for this computer. So the CPU came out in 97. Windows 98 wasn't available for another few months, so that's why we're sticking with Windows 95. I'd really like to get it back to its original kind of almost factory state. We don't have an OEM version or a recovery disk from Dell, so the best we're going to do is install this OEM version. So we haven't particularly got a better looking desktop. It says we have got the correct driver installed. So let's try changing some desktop properties. So all that's fine. I'm going to turn off active desktop because it's just a pain in the ass. So if we now get the choice of more colours, well, that seems to have worked. We're going to keep that. Can we pump up the resolution a little bit? So this monitor natively is 1280, but if we just go by 800 by 600 initially, we're going to keep that. So, speaker is turned on, sound card is plugged into what I think is the output. Let's see what options we get. So we're going to install a Creative Multimedia Decks. Very nice. Wave Studio, Creative Mixer, Sound Ali, Wave Synth, AW Control, and Vienna. Vienna was a MIDI sequencing software, wasn't it, from memory? Let's have a look. That optical drive is making a few weird noises every now and again. This was such a familiar thing, wasn't it, of installers of the time, showing you individual files, how much of the overall install and how much disk you had free. I think we deserve a little bit of good luck. We've not had that much so far. Yes, I would like to restart my computer, thank you for asking. No, I do not. So we've got a sound icon down here for the speaker volume. but we had that originally. We haven't got anything extra, which I would expect. Let's have a look at the AW control panel. So it seems to have recognized the card, so that's good. So we're not getting any sound. So it's possible I plugged it into the wrong. It had fallen out. Yay, we have some sound. So I don't know why, but I must have unplugged that by mistake. When I said fell out, I didn't really mean that. Okay, so we have some sound. We have created CD. We have a CD player. And one of the best things about Windows 95 and that era is we also had stackable controls, like a real home hi-fi system. You can have your own custom hi-fi on your desktop. Oh, that's a bit disappointing, it doesn't quite line up. So I was going to install Microsoft Plus. I am still going to do that, but this video is getting quite long already, so do we do something more interesting like putting some games on? Well, let's do both. I'll put Plus on first, and then we'll just edit that bit out if it's too long. So there's the Windows startup chime. So let's install Plus. Let's just go straight for it. Enter my secret code, which only I must know. Where are we going to put it? I think we're going to put it exactly where you want to put it, because I want this to work out of the box first time. I don't want to mess around. I am going to look at custom though. It's collected everything, so that's fine. We don't actually need dry space. Yeah. So we'll schedule some tasks. So one of the things that Plus claims to do is self-tuning and looks good. Okay. So what we're going to do is see what it installs. It's basically going to run defrag, etc. on a scheduled basis. This drive isn't going to be defragmented at the moment, so that isn't going to take very long when it chooses to do that. We don't need drive compression because we've got something that's already way too big for what it would have shipped with. A whole whopping 8 gigs. I think off the shelf this would have come with 2 gig drive. I have Windows 95 ready. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Instead of having to put the Windows 95 CD in, it's just reading it straight off the disk. Bit of a time saver. Way more convenient. So that will now open the desktop themes window and we can choose which one we want. Yay! So, dangerous creatures. Because it's the first time it's doing some decompression, I think. So we can choose whether we have the screensaver, sound events, change the mouse pointers, desktop wallpaper, change the icons, the colors, the font, names and size. Oh my goodness. So I don't particularly want any of these. Yes, I do. So we can preview the screensaver. Let's have a look. Okay, now we have some fishies. Let's go with that for now, and we'll have a little play with some others later on. So I've now got a Portuguese man of war for my mouse. A very dangerous mouse. We're going to restart Windows? Yes, please. Ooh, scary. So I think if we've got Microsoft Plus installed, we probably don't need After Dark as well. That's quite good fun though. Maybe we can put that on that other Dell 486. Maybe do that. Definitely going to be putting OEM Office on there. Oh yes. Well, it doesn't really go with a Puma. And of course there's, we need to do some games. Aha, my mouse pointer is now a wasp. These are all pretty deadly. Microsoft, what were you thinking? So we get some terrible side effects. So we get some options in theory that we didn't have before. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, yeah, so we can smooth the screen fonts, which you could have done anyway. We can make sure that the wallpaper fits properly. And we can show the window contents while dragging. So you may have noticed that wasn't happening prior to installing Plus, but it now does. So that's cool. This background, colored background on a background image, these blocks, really annoying. There is a third-party app that lets you get rid of those. In fact, there's a few. There's one of those on the other driver disk that I had. Is there anything else? So let's change it to 256 colours. If we change the colours, let's just see if it affects that badly. No, actually it looks a little bit more vibrant, if anything, even though it's supposed to be just a 256 colour theme set. Let's go full resolution. Let's see what this monitor can do. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Go back up to a higher. Okay, so it's not letting me do full res at full color. But we are going to keep this setting, I think. If we give 24-bit. So 24-bit color, it's only let me do 800 by 600. So we're limited somewhat by video memory here by the looks of it. I think this only has 2 megabytes of video RAM from memory. So we're going to keep it at mid-color settings at medium resolution. Although by Windows 95 standards, it's pretty high resolution. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do next? Should we put on some games? Or should we put on... Let's stick with the slightly more boring stuff. So we're going to stick with Microsoft Office OEM 97. And of course we have the Small Business Edition. So the Small Business Edition didn't come with Access, but it does come with Publisher and Autoroute and what's called Small Business Financial Manager 98, which I think was a set of custom macros for Excel, I think, from memory. So, and some templates as well. The Small Business Value Pack. Ooh. So, can we only install them one at a time? Oh wow, you've got to install them one at a time. That's not very integrated. Again, my super secret number that I must not tell you under fear of death. Hopefully that should work, because that's what's printed on the box. So in here we also have some very important paperwork. So we have a... sorry, let's carry on with this. Yes, I want to install into the default place. So basically it's a little guide about what's included. Clippy. Oh my goodness, we're going to get to see Clippy. Do we do custom on all of them? Let's just go for a default install, just see what happens. But it looks like we might get Clippy, and we're going to use A4 British English, please. Thank you very much for my page size. So Microsoft Outlook 98 Fulfillment Offer. So basically, looks like you can get a free upgrade to Outlook 98 from your standard Outlook 97. Okay, I take it back. It was not free. You had to pay for it. And in fact, in the UK, you had to pay £12 for it. I suppose that's Not too bad to cover the cost of the media and the shipping. Could be a worse. Here's my end user license agreement. Pretty small by modern standards. In terms of word length, it's physically small as well. And there's a separate end user license for Word, Excel and Outlook. Warranty and special provisions for Australia, New Zealand or Papua New Guinea. I don't think that is going to be relevant to us. Somebody's got something written on the back in handwriting, just the way they've configured their system. Not very exciting. So Windows is updating. So we get Word 97, Excel 97, Outlook 97, Publisher 98, Small Business Financial Manager 98. Powerful tools that let you produce dynamic customer financial reports and perform valuable what-if analysis on your accounting data. Okay. Now you can use all the accounting information you have collected about your business to make better decisions. Well, that sounds very useful. Okay, Word is installed successfully. Let's go for Excel. It's been so long since I've installed Office 97. In my head, there was one installer for everything. So whether the OEM edition is different or whether I just hadn't remembered that very well, I'm not sure. Yes, we want it in the install directory, the default one. We're going to go typical, we said. Typical. So it's asked us anyway. I think we should install Microsoft Map. We used to have fun with that. Internet Assistant Wizard, probably not. Let's go. So, the Office 97 Small Business, sorry, A4 British English please. Office 97 Small Business Edition Value Pack. Microsoft Drawer 98. Okay, that's pretty useful. The Avery Wizard helps you get the results you want when you use your Avery products. So if you want to print out onto labels, that's nice. Office templates. So we get some extra Office templates that you wouldn't normally get. The Word Viewer, I remember that. So basically, if you couldn't afford to buy Office, you could distribute the Word Viewer so that your customers could see and print Word documents without actually having to have Office itself. PowerPoint Viewer is the same. Doing business on the internet provides tools and information on how to make it easy to get your business on the internet. Okay. You can use the Office Assistant in Microsoft Excel, Outlook, Word and Publisher to help you get your work done more efficiently. That's a big claim. The Assistant can anticipate the kind of help you need and provide a tip. Or you can ask a question in your own words to find out more about the topics you are interested in. That sounds suspiciously like what we'd be doing these days with AI assistants. But it wasn't quite as annoying or cute. Okay, looks like Excel is nearly ready to go. Perfect. Outlook. I've got mixed feelings about Outlook. You know, it's there, it's annoying, it does things you don't want it to do, it loses all your data occasionally. At least it did in this version. But it was also incredibly useful and it was a good productivity tool. Significantly better than it was. Do I run it from the CD-ROM? I do not want to run it from the CD-ROM. What were you thinking, Microsoft? Now, certainly wasn't an option on any other install so far, was it? Screensaver's kicked in. Publisher. So Publisher was a really good, useful thing, actually. I remember creating many documents in Publisher. It had certain things that you just couldn't do in Word. Okay, needs second CD. That's not a problem. We have it here. But the biggest problem with Publisher was the files were never really that transportable. You couldn't really edit them in anything other than Publisher. So if you didn't have it, that was a problem. Magic number time. So I suspect Publishers come on a separate CD because it will have lots and lots of clip art. So the install may take a little bit longer than the others. So let's just check what's in the custom install. So yeah, Publishers And then publishing tools is quite a lot bigger in terms of size. Graphic converters, text converters, mail merge, wizards and design gallery. It doesn't take up a lot of room actually, so I've got plenty of space, don't worry. So yeah, it's taking a little bit longer. A lot of GIFs and Windows meta files. Okay, so it wants us to restart Windows, let's do that. Thank you, dangerous creatures. Right, so I don't know why it asks us to restart Windows. I'm trying to think what components it installed. Maybe some of the file converters have become Windows components. We've installed Word, Excel, Outlook, and Publisher. We still had some other stuff to go though. Is it going to let us install those straight from disk 2, or do we have to put disk 1 back in? No, looks like the only thing that was on that disk is Publisher. So we've got some additional fonts. That's probably what's made the installer want to reboot. So let's go back to disk 1, finish off the installation of Microsoft Office 97 Small Business Edition. Boom. So let's go for now. The problem with ball mice is that sometimes if they get dirty, they don't move properly, and that's what's happening here. It wouldn't go horizontally. Still isn't going horizontally. There we go. Small Business Financial Manager. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what's in here. We're about to find out. Again, the Small Business Financial Manager template has been prepared to give you ideas and examples of how you might use the product for business analysis. It may not be, however, appropriate analysis for your particular business, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's the kind of legally saying, don't blame us. Okay, that says Intuit QuickBook for Windows. It's not. The description says converter for Intuit QuickBook for Windows. I think we're just going to install it anyway. Okay, doing business on the internet. I'm going to skip that because I don't think we're going to be doing that with Internet Explorer 4. Small Business Value Pack. I'm interested to see what's in here. Okay, so you have to select these and install them individually by the looks of it. Is there anything exciting? Animated cursors, already got those. Animated GIFs. Wow, it can be fun. This tells you what they are. It doesn't tell you how to install these. Okay, so you can install them from within Office itself. Load Microsoft Active Movie, I'm not sure what that is. Camcorder, that's probably for screen recording. Draw, that's one of the things we were interested in. Office Sounds, Templates, Forms and Wizards, I think we've installed most of those anyway. TrueType fonts, we've included some of those when we installed Publisher. Shortcut bar. Office Assistant Gallery, so there were other Office Assistants available, not just Clippy. So we'll not deal with that straight away. Small Business Templates, that's probably going to be the same. I know there's a setup for that. Balance sheet, cash flow, blah, blah, blah. Basically everything that would be covered by a double entry bookkeeping accounting software, but all done through spreadsheets. That was easy. So what I'm interested in is, so we've got Excel, we've got Net Meeting, which was on there originally, presumably, Outlook, Publisher, Small Business Manager. So yeah, so we haven't got some of the optional extras that I was particularly keen on. So, contains components that complement Microsoft Office. Most of the components can be installed separately with their own setup procedures. You can open some components from within Office or from the Windows Start menu. Yes, but how do I install them? Please tell me. So the thing I'm interested in is Microsoft Draw. So has it been installed by default? Maybe it has. So what about Autoroute Express? Is there a separate CD that's for that isn't included in here, that's missing? Have I been duped? I think I have. Because it's not in the list here, is it? I was very much looking forward to showing you that. Oh well. Something to do on another day. So there we have Microsoft Office 97 Small Business Edition is installed as much as we can. And now we have the perfect productivity machine. We haven't installed a printer, of course. So have we got an updated version of DirectX yet? Not yet. So on my original driver's disk, I have something that I've never used before, but has been recommended on Vogons. So there's this thing called the Unofficial Service Pack for Windows 95. So let's put a copy of that on the desktop. So this in theory has all the updates that were ever released by Microsoft for Windows 95, plus a few other things thrown in. As I said, I've never used it before, but it was recommended. So let's give it a go. So what this also does is it makes sure it's the most recent version of Internet Explorer and DirectX. So warning, this service pack is not from Microsoft. Would you like to install the unofficial Windows 95 OS R2 Service Pack 1.05? Yes, I would. Right, so what it's going to do by default is install all the updates and hotfixes that were released. But we have these optional extras as well. We've got the Adaptec SCSI drivers. Hasn't got a SCSI card in here yet, but I do have several zip drives. So it may be worth considering doing that. Tweak UE, which was a Microsoft released user interface tweaker. DirectX 8. Now this video card doesn't support DirectX 8, so I'm undecided whether to install that or not. Modem drivers are not going to be applicable. Probably don't need that either. WinSock 2.2, I think we've already got an up-to-date version of that. WinTop was just a process viewer. Microsoft System Information 4 and System Tools might be useful. And then Windows Media Player 6 and above. So I think we leave those for now. We can always come back to this, but we should definitely be installing all the hotfixes and updates that were released by Microsoft. Now I don't know how interactive this is, whether it is completely automated and how long it's going to take. So OSR 2 Service Pack 1 I think essentially gives us OSR 2.5, which is what we have installed on there already. That was one of the official service packs, maybe, I don't know. So it's currently copying things into actual directories. It's not copying installers into temporary files. It's actually copying updated stuff like WinSock. Okay, let's do another one. This time it's copying things into Windows Option Cabs, which is interesting. It's obviously going to install from there. So yeah, it's still installing into Options Cabs. And maybe they're just backups in case Windows 95 is looking for the original files. I think that's what's happening. So those are temporary files. And now we're going to run. So one thing I have to say actually is Windows 95 on a Pentium 1 is pretty nippy. It's got 32 megs of RAM, which is probably helping, but I've not noticed this being slow at all. Yes, it's taking a while to do this, but it's installing dozens and dozens of software updates. One of those updates it just installed was for Microsoft Plus, which is interesting. We're definitely going to need to reboot after this, aren't we? The installation is now complete. Brilliant. Must restart your computer. Exactly, as suspected. So I can really hear the hard drive chugging. Although the disk activity light isn't coming on, that's a bit of a worry. Does that mean it's found a bad sector? We're about to get a blue screen. Nope, okay. So it's just spun up the hard drive. I suspect it's looking for the Windows 95 install files, but it doesn't need them because they're on the hard drive. Which is why the hard drive is now flashing. Are we done? I think we're maybe done. I'm going to keep that on the desktop because that may be useful later if you want to install some of that optional stuff. So let's go full screen. Let's see how the Verge handles this. So F3 to resume. Okay, so flippers are working. Let's press that ball. I haven't played pinball for a very long time. I haven't played pinball on a computer for even longer. Although it's mostly playing itself at the moment. New high score coming up.
2 hours later.
So this is taking longer than I thought. I thought the game would be over much quicker than this. So apologies, I will edit this later. But at the moment I'm having too much fun. One ball left. It's a pretty decent score, I think. Beginner's luck, obviously. The beginner's luck is wearing off. Yeah. Yay! High score. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that high score. I'm pretty happy with the game, actually. That was fun. So, what are we going to do next? Well, what else we got on this optical drive? What we do have is a couple of bits of benchmarking software. Transparent is the thing that makes those transparent, which I might install just because it's really bugging. Got 3D Mark 2000, 3D Mark 99. Let's get 2 copies off one optical disc at the same time. Okay, so we're just going to finish off the unofficial service pack updates. So I've gone for Tweak, UE, DirectX, Microsoft System Info, and Windows Media Player 6. Let's see if any of those will work on a base Windows 95 system, particularly with this graphics card. I don't know whether the DirectX drivers are going to be entirely happy. I realise that DirectX is not the same as a graphics driver. Yes, we do want to restart. So we now have a version of DirectX with DX diagnostics built in. So we've got something's not happy. We suddenly had a screen resize. I wonder if Tweak UE is interfering with the Microsoft Plus. Okay, seems happy again now. That's a bit weird. So going back to DirectX, we're in DirectX 8. It's identified the display driver correctly. We can test whether some of the whether DirectX commands work. Okay, so Direct Draw works. Direct 3D is supported by this graphics card, so let's see how good or how bad that is. That certainly seems to be working. And that's working slightly better. So yeah, so Direct 3D seems to be working. Even though we had that missing file when we installed the driver, everything seems to be working quite well at the moment. So, sound, does it recognise the sound card it has? So basically all the drives are working for sound as well, so that's all good. So MIDI playback using the software synth is working, so that's all good. Okay, well that definitely sounds better than the Microsoft one, didn't it? Let's try this different one. Okay, well that's sound entirely different. That's from FN Synthesizer, I think. Inputs. No input devices detected. Okay, that's fine, because we want to be plugged in at the moment. Has it recognised and installed gaming options? Yes, so there's nothing plugged in, but it has recognised that there should be. I always have my bin bottom right corner. Do people have strong preferences on that? Let me know in the comments if you do. Move all those up because I can't have gaps. We'll put Acrobat on as well, just so we can read the Dell manual. Not that one. That one. I think version 5 is one of those versions that you should never go on the internet with. From memory, it was so buggy, full of holes. 7-zip 920, I think is the last version of 7-zip to work on Windows 95. Let's find out. Looks like it. Excellent, so we can get rid of both of those. So 3 Mark 99 definitely works on Windows 95. These two wouldn't work without DirectX 8 being installed. They may just not work on Windows 95, let's just find out. Certainly thinking about it. Performance, I mean, the numbers we're going to get are going to be absolutely awful, should it even run. So it's happy that it's above DirectX version 7, so it is going to let me install. While it's doing that, we'll just get the serial number. These usernames and serial numbers are out in the public domain, by the way, so you can use them. So let's try PC Mark 2002. So that's the earliest version of PC Mark I could find. These serial numbers are all out in the public domain. They were released by FutureMark, or Mad Onion as it was known at the time, I think. Yeah, madonion.com. So let's try 3D Mark 99. Now, this video card was made in what, 97, and it wasn't particularly good in 97. So that a 99 benchmark is going to be absolutely appalling in terms of numbers. But let's just have a little look, see what it can do. So don't forget, this is an OEM built into the motherboard graphics card. This is not going to be chosen because it was performant, it was going to be chosen because it was cheap. So 3D Mark cannot use the default display settings on your 3D accelerator. Too little memory for the frame buffer, probably. Hardware does not support 3D acceleration in 800 by 600. Okay, so we'll need to reduce the display resolution. So let's do that. See if we can get it to work. .640 by 480. Yes. Things are looking a little bit messy, but let's try again. So we can't benchmark because these 64 megs of RAM. Let's try. So it's changing to 800 by 600 anyway. Maybe I misread the error message. So that's about 1 frame per second, if you could actually see anything. I think you may agree there's a little bit amount of glitching going on. Yeah, let's not bother running the rest of that test. Benchmark aborted, yes. So game 1 didn't work. Should we try some of the others? So I know game 1 doesn't work. Let's try game 2. See if we can see anything. Okay, we're getting 2 frames a second now, I reckon. But as you can see, there's an immense amount of visual glitching going on. Completely pointless. So yeah, so as a 3D accelerator, this card is not great. So 3D Mark isn't going to work. So we kind of knew that already. What about what about PC Mark? So that's going to measure overall system performance. But no, it's not happy. It's not happy running Windows 95, so that's fine. Let's just do this transparent app to get rid of these black boxes around stuff. So you probably want black text. What do you reckon? Black text? White text? Let's stick with black. So that is not sticky, it was saying, so you have to run that every time you run Windows 95, so we can put that in the startup folder. Can you put an actual app in there? You can. Let's see if that works. So in part 2, we've managed to install Windows 95 twice as it happens. We installed Plus on top of that, got that working. We installed some Microsoft Office and tried out a few kind of simple tests to see how much it was all working together. Sound working, video's working in 2D sense, but it's not working in the 3D sense. And we may have to do something about that in a future video. But hopefully you enjoyed that. The next part of the video is going to be about running some DOS games and some Windows games on the system and see how it performs. If you liked the video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you.